live everywhere else too, but
All right, and welcome back. Not technic. You know what? I'm so used to saying welcome back to the Paisan Sports Podcast. This is not the Paisan Sports Podcast. It looks like the Paisan Sports Podcast. We have the Paisan flag. This is your Paisan Sports Podcast hosts, Dante DePlacido and Zach Deal. But
it is a Paisan Sports Podcast. It's just not. Listen, if you can't handle it,
you gotta let me finish the intro. You gotta let me finish.
I was going to say, if you can't handle the intro,
let's center that.
If you can't handle the intro,
I can handle the intro. All right, I'm doing a longer intro. Let me do my intro. God damn it! All right, Paisan Sports people. Okay, but today we are presenting to you a Sixers Celtics round one game 7 pregame show, and it's presented by really presented by Recliner Media Network, but
hosted by
you
can't handle the intro. So listen, this is what he's trying to say.
I can handle the intro. It's a game.
It's not 7. Episode. Don't bang the table. It's
a game 7.
You're messing with the mic settings. You can't handle the producer role, and you can't handle the intro. So let me step in. This is the Paisan Sports Podcast.
So let's get
Game 7, Celtics, Sixers. It's just not episode 134. That will be tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. What happened in Game 7. But let's talk about what we think is going to happen in Game 7, and that is the Game 7 live preview show that we are doing right now, Paisan Sports Podcast. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. You said, I actually pulled a clip the other day, and I didn't post it, but I pulled a clip of you, and then we actually had, I think, we're trending right so far in our last podcast Sunday. I think you said, I believe there might have been 2 podcasts ago before the series started, whatever it was. But you said on one of the Paisan Sports podcasts in recent memory that you thought it could go Game 7, and we're actually here now. So I won't give you the credit that.
No, I mean, as much as I love to take credit, I don't think I said that. I think what you're referring to, I believe I know what you're referring to. We were discussing the possibility that if both the Sixers and the Flyers were to both go to a Game 7, it would be on the same day. And I said if both Game 7s happen on the same day, it could only end disastrously. So good thing the Flyers won, so that we don't have 2 Game 7s, because that could only end in disaster. But we just have the one. So, I mean, I still think it's going to end in disaster, but
what makes you think that is going to end in disaster with the way that the Sixers have been playing recently and the lack of help that Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are getting right now?
Well, that's exactly
about that on the podcast.
That's exactly why, what you just said, right? Because the fact that you had 3 games where their role players were playing at such a high level. Peyton Pritchard in, I think, Game 3 it was. I could be wrong on which game, but there was a game where Peyton Pritchard hit 6 threes and scored 31 or 32 points, right? Now,
okay, but let me
won the past 2 games because the role players haven't done anything, but I feel like they're going to get back into the flow.
Maybe Peyton Pritchard isn't the right comparable because I think talent-wise, we all know VJ Edgecombe, 3rd overall lottery pick from this last draft, is a lot more talented than Peyton Pritchard. I'm a no Peyton Pritchard hater. I think if you check all my posts online, I'm a known Peyton Pritchard hater.
Edgecombe is certainly a more talented.
I know. I'm just saying. But it's just, people that see me, they're probably like, oh, you're always hating on him. I mean, yeah, dude makes crazy shots. But I said the other day that Quentin Grimes was a more versatile player. The game that
Grimes is a great defender.
Okay, the game that Peyton Pritchard outplayed Quentin Grimes off the bench and then came back the next game and really showed out and was one of the reasons why the Sixers won. The game that Peyton Pritchard outplayed Quentin Grimes, I said that, and people were kind of roasting me online. But I said more versatile. I didn't say better. I think he has more tools in the tool shed. But like you said, Peyton Pritchard can go for 30 at any time off the bench. So, but with that being said, what I was saying is the more comfortable thing why I brought up VJ Edgecombe is the Sixers got a 30-point game out of VJ Edgecombe as well. It was pretty much a very similar hit, like 7 threes,
Yeah.
just like Peyton Pritchard
But
was
that's
able
the guy
to do.
you would expect to have a great game. You know,
VJ Edgecombe, the 3rd overall pick from this past draft,
you would more
as
so
opposed to a
expect him
dude
to have
that
a great game.
didn't
than
Peyton Pritchard
Peyton
win
Pritchard.
6th man of the year like 2 years ago during the championship run? I'm pretty sure he won 6th man of the year. So that's a guy that has carved out and proven himself in the league. And like I said, VJ's more talented, but we're talking about a guy with a resume on a championship team. So those are two guys that are comparable because we're not talking about Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown or even Derek White, who has not shown up at all in the series, which has been pretty surprising, his lack of offense and efficiency there. But as for the Sixers, we're not talking about Paul George doing that. We're not talking about Joel Embiid doing that or Tyrese Maxey, guys that we've seen in the past drop 30 in a playoff game. So I don't know. Game 7s usually work out where it's like one of those guys like a Kelly Oubre or even Nikola Vucevic or Neemias Queta, like dropping, 15 points and 10 rebounds, or Nikola Vucevic, who hasn't been effective this series as well. And we talked about targeting him on defense.
Well,
but
let me just say one thing. Not only has Vucevic not been effective this series, but since the return of Joel Embiid, he has been using Vucevic down in the low post.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We talked about targeting those guys and Sam Hauser's, but Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, as much as you want to target them on defense, they can also be efficient on offense and drop 6 or 7 threes on you. That can be the X factor in the game. So I know everybody, when you look at the betting books and how you want to take the game and perceive it to go, we know there's going to be limited rotations. We're probably going to see 8 guys. The Celtics go a little bit deeper. They've been using that Jordan Walsh dude like as a combo guard. He's been playing like 2 through 4, kind of like you can't really tell. It's like positionless basketball, but he's a guy with pretty decent size. He's not effective on offense at all, but he's a good defender and just has good size. So he's versatile in that way. They've been using Garza, Queta, and Vucevic as like their big man rotation, but even trying to, go by committee with these guys, none of them are stopping Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's just eating. That's barbecue chicken for Joel Embiid.
Well, now here's the thing. Unfortunately, due to my work schedule, I did have to miss the last game. I call it the second half on the radio driving home. But so I don't want to speak in absolutes about the game because I didn't get to actually watch it besides the highlights and hear it on the radio in the second half. However, from what I saw, it seemed like Joel Embiid didn't have the most efficient game on the floor in Game 6. Am I correct on that?
He was around halftime, I think it was. This is what I'll say about that. I'm actually glad that you brought that up and you made me remember that because Joel Embiid, that you saw the sequence probably floating around on social media. People are calling it one of the best sequences in recent memory and recent Sixers memory with the behind the back pass to Kelly Oubre on the baseline for the dunk, and then the block in transition by Kelly Oubre that led to a VJ Edgecombe dunk when he was hanging on the rim. I mean, that's one of the most iconic moments in recent Sixers memory, especially VJ Edgecombe in his rookie year. And you think about just the stakes just trying to keep the series alive at home and the 3rd overall pick ending that sequence. And it starts with the process pretty much of like the dude that started the entire thing of when like this era of Sixers basketball of like the current members started to just the full circle moment of VJ Edgecombe, the 3rd overall lottery pick this year, finishing the sequence and then picking up a guy like Kelly Oubre along the way that's dropped 20 points for like bad teams like the Hornets. Can he be a good role player on a team like the Sixers, or is he just a player that can accumulate stats on a bad team? And he's shown with the Sixers, he can be a very effective player in the rotation in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So when you think about the whole picture and how this team was crafted and built, and you look at that sequence of plays, I mean, it was just beautiful. And I say that to say, with Joel Embiid, it wasn't the prototypical Joel Embiid MVP type performance of 35 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks like prime Joel. But this is the evolved team of Joel Embiid that it's almost dropping. He had, I think, 13, 6, and 5 at half or something like that. Almost a triple-double.
He's become a much better facilitator.
And the one thing I wanted to say was,
what, 6 or 7 assists
yeah,
in the
and
playoffs?
he was closing in on a playoff triple-double, which the last Sixer to do that was Joel Embiid, which I believe was Game 5 versus the Celtics. when they blew the series, I think, with James Harden a couple years ago. So.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw what I had posted to our Paisan Sports TikTok account. But the other day, I was actually looking through all of our old posts on there, and I saw the podcast clip where 3 years ago, when we tied the series 2-2, we eventually went to go up in the series 3-2. But when we tied the series 2-2, I said, for the first time, there's actually hope after 4 games that they can beat the Celtics in a playoff series. I said, and even back then, I said I didn't think they were going to win the series, but there was at least hope. And they did end up losing the series. But it is fun to look at that parallel where now here we are 3 years later, once again with a chance to beat the Celtics, and they actually pull it off this time. I don't know.
Well, let's look at those two teams together.
Well, I think on paper this is a much better team than
I think overall, but I mean, when you put the stock into as great as Paul George has been in his career with his resume, VJ, his talent, I mean, you had arguably two of the top 80 players in the history of the NBA on the last team.
Paul George is such a big upgrade from Tobias Harris.
I'm talking about James Harden, obviously. What I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. But I'm looking at position to position, right? So, I mean, if you start at center, right? Joel Embiid 3 years ago versus Joel Embiid now. Joel Embiid 3 years ago.
Well, that's actually not what it is. The reason why I bring that up is what I was going to say is Tyrese Maxey, where he was at in his career at that point in time with James Harden, as opposed to where he's at now.
This Tyrese Maxey is better than that James Harden, right? So that's one thing right there. This version of Tyrese Maxey,
I don't know if I agree with that.
I think that's crazy to say. This version of Tyrese
Maxey, you've said it yourself.
That version of James Harden.
I mean, James Harden's just like a walking triple-double. That's just like James Harden. You forget that series that Joel Embiid didn't even play, and he dropped 45 versus the Celtics single-handedly.
I remember when he did that, but
when James Harden
he also had the final 2 games where he did nothing in those final 2 games of that season.
You said it yourself. Tyrese Maxey still prove himself in these type of situations. You don't think he's the greatest?
Yeah, but when has James Harden ever been known as a clutch playoff performer?
I mean, that series, that's what kept them alive. That's what pretty much propelled them into the situation.
But looking at the two games, once they were up 3-2, the 2 games that they had where they could possibly advance, that's when you really needed James Harden to step up, and he did.
Well, nobody stepped up in that situation, and then Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like once again, how many times have we seen it? They just absolutely
from Tyrese Maxey versus Harden.
All I wanted to say was James Harden. The reason why it's more effective of James Harden getting like a 45-point game out of James Harden, like that situation, as opposed to now with Tyrese Maxey, is like James Harden's like a more so primary facilitator, kind of with LeBron. So it's like if he's dropping 45 and getting other people involved in the offense, which Tyrese Maxey we just talked about on the last podcast, he's not a true facilitator. He's kind of like the AI type where he's playing. It's a point guard kind of forced into that role because they don't really, have a true point guard. But he's more of a shooting guard-minded type of guy, and they run sets and he's able to shoot. But one thing I do like about Tyrese Maxey that I think has helped him get into the situation, unfortunately, Game 7 was he's not just sitting there off the pick and rolls and just trying to sit and plant his feet for those 3-pointers and just shoot them. He's getting downhill and actually attacking the rim, and we see how great he is at doing that. He finished the game with that sequence of, I think it was 7 for 20 until he hit those 2 threes in the game that they won. I forget what game that was in the series.
I think that was the first game they won in Game 2.
Yeah, I believe so. It was either the first or second win in the series. And he hit those 2 threes, and then what did he do? He finished that game with that outrageous layup, that switch cross layup.
Yeah, that was definitely
and that was the dagger of the game. So if he's getting downhill in that game, the reason why he wasn't efficient until the end was he obviously but he was coming off the pick and roll, not getting downhill. He was just settling for that 3. And over the past couple of games, he's just been getting downhill. And I'm all on board. I'm I'm just trying to say and trying to facilitate a role. If the Sixers want to play it where Wells being a facilitator, like we talked about, passing out of the post because he's such an effective mid-range shooter and he's so versatile in offense where he can pass out of the post, post people up and draw the defense and draw double teams, which he was drawing double teams in the last game in Game 6 in Philadelphia. And wide open shooters were all open on the perimeter. He was just taking them out. That's why he had so many assists. If they want to commit to Tyrese Maxey just being the primary scorer and Joel takes on that role and posts up on the keys and the block, and it's just the ball out to the perimeter. I'm okay with them doing that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, going back to who I feel is going to win this game, right? That's the thing. It's when I look back at how good this team is versus the team from years ago. I think this is the better. Paul George is over Tobias Harris, but by a long shot, right? Because Paul George does a much better job at creating his own offense, much better job at hitting open threes that gets dished out to him. Way better defender. He can defend multiple positions. He's playing excellent defense this whole series. I believe Maxey is better than Harden was years ago. Now Maxey 3 years ago is better than VJX right now. That's not a knock on VJX, which is Maxey also.
I don't. I think it's just like the versatility. Like you can't just like Tyrese Maxey is one of the best scorers in the league, and he can pass the ball. But he plays the pass with defense. He gets in the pass.
Definitely a much better defender. But, I mean, Maxey is.
Well, Maxey's I'm just saying.
Offense 3 years ago
Tyrese Maxey's not going to get like.
Offense.
I wouldn't put it against Tyrese Maxey going out and getting 10 rebounds. Like I don't think I'm not going to put my money on that. That wouldn't shock me. But VJS, I can almost on the third overall lottery pick, going out and getting 10 rebounds.
Wait, who was our starter 3 years ago? Who's playing this position? I'm trying to think of.
That was Joel. Like depending on what the lineup was.
Because obviously Tobias was playing the 4. It was Maxey and Harden at guard. We didn't have the 2 yet. That was the Harden trade.
We don't have to keep going back.
Yeah, but anyway, the point is, even though I think this is the better team,
we don't
this time around.
The comparison. I know. I'm just saying we got like.
I'm moving on now. Well, we'll move on now. But however, when you look at the scheme of things, also, is this team that's capable of pulling off a 3-1 comeback and winning the final game on the road in Boston, hostile environment? I just personally, I just don't see it. I wish I did, but I just don't see it.
Is that just from your PTSD though? To that
partially,
situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you mean partially? How much of a percent would you put on that? Because that sounds like from what they've shown us the past couple of games, not they? Like, and we've been doing this together for what, 5 years now? And we watched 6 games.
5 years, but
I mean 4 or 5 years.
3
Yeah. You know that. So
closing in on 4.
So I mean we watched the evolution. We've been watching of those 4 years, 3 different series, and the last I think the first one was the referencing.
Well, it's 2023. This is right there. 2023, 2024.
No, it was 2022. We started.
We started in CSB summer of 2022. So we would not.
I got the files. We pull up the file.
Yeah, pull up the files. Pull the files. I know when.
Okay. So getting back on track here for that unnecessary. We've seen the differences of the teams of what they have now. They're going 8 guys in the rotation, and they kind of have everything you need to get this job. That's what I believe. They have a guy that can come in center ball. They have Joel when he's in there. You can't do literally anything. There's nobody on the Celtics that can guard.
Correct.
No, and he
there's also, I mean, when you look at Jaylen Brown,
possible
shots against this.
But the thing about this they live and die by the three. All they want to do is shoot threes. That's literally all they do. And sometimes Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, they do bring it downhill. And all those other guys that get involved, they're like pretty much dependent. I mean, Richard obviously, Derek White's not really making that at all. All those other guys have to get fed by Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, and a lot of it's created off them getting downhill. So if the Sixers, Paul George has been playing really good on-ball defense in this past couple runs of wins that they put together to get themselves to a Game 7. At the beginning of the series, we saw him, like I said on a podcast or two ago, he was playing Dance Dance Revolution with the with on-ball defense for Jaylen Brown specifically. And he was cooked. But now you see Kelly Oubre's making plays on defense. Everybody's kind of playing their part and making plays. Even Grimes is playing his part and making plays, and they're getting contributions from everybody. So we know the Celtics. Jayson Tatum was literally questionable. Right.
Well,
he might not even
also
play.
has pneumonia. He's listed as probable. George might also
It's flu game. It's flu game. It's flu game for. If Paul George
just because somebody's sick doesn't mean they're going to have an MJ flu game level performance.
No, I'm just saying that's got to be the mentality. I'm not saying he's not going to go out there and do that. But if Paul George misses this game, I'm going somewhere else. If Paul George misses this game, as I get a live Jayson Tatum not playing in Game 7 from Recliner Media.
Oh, I wonder. You know what? I wonder how much that shifted the line.
Well, I got my bet in already. I did Done Deals episode 5.
Well, that's good to get your bet. You put money on the Sixers, so that's good.
So during the live bet when I talked about this, but I wanted to refrain most of the talk. I just gave the point for the game. I didn't do any analysis of the game.
Mine shifted by 2 points from -6.5.
It was plus 200. What are they, like plus 170? The Celtics or the Sixers on the road plus 170? 150. So I got them. Let's see. So I have a positive cash out on this bet. Sixers money line. Paul George to score 15. Joel Embiid 8 rebounds and Derek White over 2.5 assists. Boosted from plus 808 to plus 12 odds. So if you put $25 which I did, I had house money for bets. Done Deals Betting Podcast. Go check that out if you want to. You can make in total with the payout of your wager $328.11. So Dante, we're gonna try and it just went up from last time. Beginning to mention that it has gone up another extra $1. So let's see if I can put these back in. Also, surprised that we have your Dante. Do you have any guesses? Surprised to be?
No. I think maybe it might have something to do with my hair.
No. Right now, hold on one second.
Well, while Zach does that,
but I mean that shifts this entire conversation. The entire conversation just shifts right there.
A little bit.
I mean, I am somebody that tries to downplay Jayson Tatum, so I don't suffer as much as a Sixers fan. But even okay, so Dante surprises up in here, getting it ready. Look that up for a second. Go over there for a second. Go over there. You got some room in the booth here.
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, actually.
And up Dante's surprise here. So this is something. Dante, before you leave, just ponder this while you're going. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. So take that for whatever you believe that means. If anybody that means, but we got this special surprise for Dante. So we'll see if he's prepared to go through this. But yeah, that changes this entire conversation. I mean, like I said, I try to downplay Jayson Tatum. Try to say he can't get effective. You got to attack him as a defender, but we all know the level and capability of Jayson Tatum. Even if he was injured out there, it's if he's on the court, if he was able to play tonight, I wouldn't put it past him having a crazy performance. But he's obviously not going to be out there tonight. I think with the importance of Jayson Tatum. You have a situation that happened with KD back in 2019 in the Raptors series. That whole Warriors team kind of just fell apart with injuries, and I know the Warriors as an organization bounced back, but Kevin Durant himself hasn't gotten back to a championship situation since then, and he's tried so many different situations. And this, we obviously know what just happened in that Lakers series, and you just can't risk like a guy like Jayson Tatum in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, coming off his Achilles injury in a situation like this.
Absolutely
Like,
not.
and I'm not even trying to say that. Like, I'm being completely real. I'm not just trying to I'm happy. Like, yeah. If am I going to sit here and lie to you guys and say I'm not happy Jayson Tatum playing tonight? I am ecstatic he's not playing. Like, I'm so happy. But I don't want to see Jayson Tatum long-term hurt as a full overall NBA fan as much as I hate the Celtics. And I think that's the risk the Celtics will be taking. We saw the evidence of – I know Kevin Durant has done a lot of things since that injury with the Warriors, but you just can't have a situation where potentially Jayson Tatum puts himself at risk for another major injury, coming off a major injury, and then really stunts. I mean, we've seen certain athletes go through situations like that. Klay Thompson – I mean, they won a championship with the Golden State Warriors since those couple injuries that he suffered around that same time that KD got injured. But Klay Thompson was never really the same guy after that situation happened.
No, not at all. And, not to go off topic, but what I don't can never get over is the fact that those injuries had put Golden State in a prime situation to have sort of a modern day version of what happened to the Spurs back in the day when what's his name was hurt for a year and then terrible. They ended up drafting David Robinson. So then after that, then they had David Robinson and Tim Duncan, and they won the ring almost. And as a guy who's like the Golden State Warriors, being kind of excited thinking that the same thing would repeat, and then they would have another star to pair alongside Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, and they used that pick on James Wiseman.
Yeah, and then Jonathan Kuminga they got rid of, and a lot of teams are with him.
They took him over Luka.
And I mean, the 2024 I tweeted it. 2024 Reed Shepard, third overall pick. 2023 fourth overall pick, Amen Thompson, and 2022 third overall pick in Jabari Smith. And they combined, I think, for 18 points. As we have Dante's special guest we're bringing on, we got the man himself from Recliner Media, Mike. What is up? What's going on, man?
Guess it would help if I turned on my microphone. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you, brother?
How's it going, Mike?
You guys are in a lot better position than we are right now.
So I've been teasing
feeds you.
I've been teasing Dante. I gave him some hints. I said, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." I mentioned
Mike's hand.
Exactly, but this is what I have set up for you. So I've been teasing Dante if he knew what I had in store for him. I told Mike the other day when I was setting up this podcast that when we found out the Sixers were going to have a Game 7, his team, we're not trying to harp on him. His team has won a championship more recently than our team. And obviously the big debate is being Denver-based, Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid. So I wanted to put Dante to the test versus a true Nikola Jokic guy himself and Mike. And he wanted to defend himself because when I texted him, he had an entire paragraph prepared for me all ready to go why it wasn't Jokic. He wasn't the issue of why they lost. I kind of believe him. I just want to hear what he has to say, and I kind of want to hear what you guys both have to say when you match up Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. So, Mike, you can go first. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I mean the slander and the hate that Jokic is getting already is, it's a little pissing me off because of the lack of help that he got in this series. And everybody expects Joker to just do everything, literally everything.
No, it's good.
And then of course
it's like a glitch on my computer.
Can you guys hear me?
Hold on 1 second. Not sure if we still have Mike in here. Let's see if we can get him back loaded in from our end. It's looking a little scratchy. Hold on one sec. But Dante, with Jayson Tatum, real quickly, we'll clear some dead air that we have if we don't have Mike right now. We got Mike. You there, Mike?
Did I kick you guys off your own show on accident?
Okay. Yeah, you're good to go. My bad. I guess we were buffering a little bit. That happens sometimes on StreamYard. But
I was like,
if you just want to give us just a little intel to what you think happened in that series with the Minnesota Timberwolves, which you guys probably were a little upset too because you thought with Anthony Edwards being ruled out of that series and getting hurt pretty quickly that maybe you had the series wrapped up. What do you think about that situation? What do you think led to the Nuggets kind of blowing that series?
Zero heart, zero fight, zero will, and just didn't seem like anybody else wanted to step up in this series. And yeah, just like you guys found out that Jayson Tatum is out of Game 7 against the 76ers, you know, when Anthony Edwards misses a game, when DeSumo is ruled out, and other guys, Dante DiVincenzo tears his Achilles on a non-basketball really related injury, you're like, oh, Nuggets may have a chance. And it sucks that it comes to, you know, like, oh, this is the only way the Nuggets are going to win this series without Anthony Edwards and without DeSumo, who dropped 42 points on him 2 games ago. And then Dante DiVincenzo, who is probably their best 3-point shooter. And I mean, yeah, just no heart, no fight, and zero coaching. I am not a big fan of Chris Finch, the head coach for Minnesota, but he came out and said it after this game and said they chose us. Like, they wanted to position themselves in the West to face us, which is stupid because the Timberwolves have knocked the Nuggets out of the playoffs now 3 out of the last 4 years. And so I don't know. It was just bad, and they got exposed this series. Minnesota has been a bad matchup for them the last couple of years. They're just so long and lengthy. And yeah, you brought up Jokic earlier. Like I said, the slander and kind of this is a legacy game for him. Like, I don't know. I think that's all stupid. And like most, you know, national media, we don't get to watch. Like, I could not tell you what's going on with the 76ers besides what we hear in the national news, besides what we see in the playoffs. Like, nobody probably watches the Nuggets until the playoffs come because everybody's on national TV. And so you're not watching 82 games of literally Jokic and Murray, I guess, this season carry this team to the playoffs. And another sad thing to say is I kind of wish Murray did not have his first All-Star year because, like you guys mentioned for Derek White and the Celtics, I mean, he did really not show up in this series. I mean, McDaniels backed up his talk with stellar defense, and then he goes off for 32 points in Game 6. So they really backed it up. And then,
yeah, and I just said, I don't know if you heard me or not, but I said, I think Jaden McDaniels, that's like the guy where to the national media, if you're not watching the Timberwolves every night, I try to watch all of the NBA, but being on the East Coast, those West Coast games start at 10:40 for me. So even watching my favorite all-time player in LeBron James is really tough, but I get to do it on the weekends and I try to do it as much as I can. And Jaden McDaniels is the guy that without Anthony Edwards in the series was able to showcase that he's arguably the most underrated player in the NBA. And I feel like a lot of people would think like Jalen Johnson would hold that title for the Hawks and what he did this year. But I don't know. Jaden McDaniels on both sides of the ball is just an absolute demon right now.
Yeah, and he definitely backed up his smack talk after Game 2, and you know, just
it was getting chippy too. What did you think about early in the series when Ant Edwards was healthy? Him and Jokic kind of going back and forth because we know how Ant is, and we know how Jokic is considered arguably the best player in the league. 2 of the top 8 players, I would say, in the entire league going at it like that really sets the tone for the series.
Well, it's funny because I'm I don't know. I'm on the fence with liking Anthony Edwards. I like his personality. I like his charisma. Minnesota as a whole, and I think the whole team kind of feeds off Ant, and just a little bit too much on the cocky side for me, and arrogant side for me when it comes from that team. But Anthony Edwards has come out after multiple playoff series, after multiple games. They obviously Minnesota and Nuggets, and they play each other a lot during the season, being in the West. And Anthony Edwards is just I don't know if he's in awe of Jokic, because you can't be in awe when you're playing against somebody, but just the comments he says, after games and stuff like that. I think he likes Jokic. I think Jokic likes Anthony Edwards, and it's tough because you're when you finally kind of, I guess, quote unquote, stick up for yourself in a series, and like you said, start to get chippy and stuff like that, guys get pushed around. It makes it look bad. It makes the situation look bad. But I do think.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was pretty common what they were fighting over. Like we've seen a lot of star players actually clash over that exact thing of like the ball situation of trying to get a quick inbound and not being able to have possession of the ball, and just like creates this. It's like one of those cardinal rules of basketball. So I wouldn't say it's anything like where we kind of saw some like crazy trash talk or like a physical situation that led to that. But we have seen plays like that with Nikola Jokic involved in the past. So, and Anthony Edwards himself. So it's just playoff basketball, and it's the Western Conference too. People like to say the Western Conference is a little bit tougher on the tougher side than the Eastern Conference, although the Eastern Conference, it depends on which year you teeter the seesaw.
I feel like it's most commonly the Western Conference is the stronger conference. I feel like
for sure.
Ever since,
I think not only just that, but like the Eastern Conference sometimes like kind of flips the tide a little bit, but just overall chippiness of playoff series, I would say the Western Conference kind of is usually what provides that type of thing. I mean, we just saw a fight in the historic Knicks Hawks game too, which was pretty insane. We had it was 82-39 at one point, and then we had some other crazy playoff moments too with the Magic. I think 4 points. Let's see, we got some live comments.
I'm just laughing over the last
Jayson Tatum. We have everybody.
the tipoff lyrics.
Yeah, someone's in here talking about OKC and everything. So on the Paisan Sports podcast specifically, we mentioned the Denver Nuggets all offseason, specifically me. I was saying the Sixers have not had that forward that they've been looking for so long. Michael Porter Jr., I loved him. I wanted to draft him when the Sixers had two top 10 draft picks back in the day.
And then we drafted Mikal Bridges,
He was
and
the
I was
number
like,
one.
oh, also great, but then we traded him. So that was fun.
And Michael Porter Jr. was the number one overall basketball recruit coming out of his high school. Obviously got hurt with the back at Missouri, fell a little bit. What do you think the impact of the Denver Nuggets moving on from a guy like Michael Porter Jr. had on a series like this, where they just didn't have the edge outside of guys like Jokic and Murray, even then when they weren't able to show up and even when they were able to produce as well?
Yeah, it's crazy that trading one guy, they got a whole bunch of depth. They were able to get a whole bunch of what we thought was depth after trading MPJ because of his contract. And you bring in a guy like Valanciunas, you could bring in a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., and you bring back a guy like Bruce Brown. You think, man, this is one of the deepest teams that the Nuggets have had in a couple of years, even dating back to 2023 when they won a championship. And I'm sure you guys have heard it out east and stuff like that, but every time Joker sits down to finally get a rest, that the term is the non-Jokic minutes. Like how can the Nuggets stay afloat when Jokic sits down? And
I actually want to apologize for that, because my dad is an alum of Dayton University. So I know my guy Darnell Holmes Holmes over there isn't helping you guys out too much, but in the backup, but that's been an issue. I think they tried like DeAndre Jordan in years past as well, but they haven't found like an Andre Drummond that can really spell minutes at the big man position. And they're so reliant on the production of their center in an offense, which is pretty unique. Not too many teams are reliant on that. The Sixers are our team as well. So let's kind of transition that a little bit. What do you think those minutes without Jokic, what do you think the main reason the Nuggets can't be effective in those type of minutes?
It just nobody can really run, even when because Murray sometimes, most of the time, plays with the backups for a lot of minutes. And everyone, I think their offense is based on that two-man game between Joker and Murray. The screens and stuff like that, and the give and goes and what have you. So when Joker's not out there, it just seems like nobody else is able to do that. They for whatever reason, I don't know if you guys agree with tighter rotations in the playoffs, which I never understood. Like, why do you go from a not 8-9 man rotation down to really like a 6-7 man rotation. It doesn't make any sense.
I more so understand it as opposed to agree with it.
I think 8 is.
It also depends on like the depth that you have, but with the way that contracts are set up and guys like Jaylen Brown's making has a 5-year, $305 million contract. So all your money's loaded up with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum in a situation for a team like that. So I think it really matters of the depth. Thunder are obviously able to get away with it. And that's why I feel like they've won a championship. They're the best team in the league right now, but there might be a susceptibility because there is ways to attack those guys, but people think the refs swallow their whistles a little bit with the OKC Thunder and how physical they're allowed to play, especially at home. But I really think it just matters to the depth that you have. And I feel like the Sixers right now going in this Game 7 with the Celtics, especially without Jayson Tatum, they are playing an 8-man rotation, and they're pretty much just bringing sometimes like Justin Edward, who's like a hometown guy who actually was a big-time high school recruit in his class, but he kind of fell off a little bit on the college side. But he spells Paul George a little bit, and like if you squint your eyes, he kind of looks like Paul George out there a little bit, same stylistic player and size forward-wise. He spells Paul George in minutes, but outside of Quentin Grimes and Andre Drummond, the Sixers, that's all they really got on the bench.
Yeah, I was about to say that because to your point of it depends on depth. In the case of the 76ers, the reason why they're doing an 8-man rotation and why I think for them an 8-man rotation is perfect is because I was about to say the same thing. Outside of Quentin Grimes and Andre Drummond, I can't you're not missing anybody by shortening the rotation off the bench. And none of those guys really off the bench. Like, I don't want to see Trenton Watford off the bench and getting playoff minutes for the 76ers.
That's probably the biggest issue with the Sixers. Why I wanted a guy like Michael Porter Jr. was because we don't really have a 4 or a power forward that is somebody we can rely on. So we kind of have like that tweener position of Aaron Gordon would be perfect, like a guy like that but he's also been banged up for you guys, even though last year he was banged up too, and he had that crazy game-winning shot, which was ridiculous, that alley-oop. But we don't have a power forward we can rely on, so we kind of play small ball Paul George there. And I don't know if you got to watch the series at all. We had the young guy that was filling in for Joel Embiid, who was in his conference in college, in Adem Bona. He was like a all-conference defensive player. He's just kind of like reckless. He kind of has like that Serge Ibaka style of play, but offensively he's reckless. He's killing us on the run. Like he'll stop a run in transition on him taking an offensive charge, like him trying to do too much to the point where he hasn't even gotten minutes with Joel Embiid healthy now.
Yeah, and so is it going to be a case of, what is your guys' take on? I guess you mentioned AG being banged up, and according to all reports now that he might be available in the offseason. But what's it? Because we talk about the non-Joker minutes when he sits on the bench. He was hurt for a month this year, sat out a bunch of games. Obviously, Embiid has dealt with injury issues for a very long time. What's it like as a I'm gonna flip the script a little bit. What's it like as a 76ers fan knowing that dominant presence isn't out there? Are you guys like, oh, here we go again? Or are you like, we have that depth to kind of fill in?
Before Dante goes on a tangent, because I hear him loading up the breath here, I'll just say this real quickly, then he can go, it's a blessing and a curse because they played well without him. That first game he came back, they were kind of out of sorts and out of rhythm. I don't know if they expected him to come back and had enough time to put and implement a real game plan to set up these defensive sets with them, and it kind of showed, and they weren't really competitive in that game. The second game he came back, it felt like they were a lot more comfortable what they thought they could do on the court and actually executing that.
Yeah, so what I'll say to that is when you look at the career of Joel Embiid, for many years, for most of his career, that was basically the story when Joel would leave the court. Typically how it would go would be they would start the fourth quarter without Embiid, and the other team would go on a massive run until Embiid finally checked back in. Like, if you go and you look at the career plus minus of the 76ers with Joel Embiid on the court versus off the court, the numbers it's such a large disparity. And it was partially because we never really had a guy who could come off the bench and score. Our best bench players that I can think of, like one year it was Mike Scott, and
Mike Scott hit a game-winning 3 for us.
He
versus
did
the
hit a
Brooklyn Nets
game-winning
back in the day,
3,
but
but then there was the other guy whose name I'm blanking on, the forward. I'm blanking on his name. It's irrelevant.
remember we had what was it? Ersan Ilyasova. At one point in time, we had Marco Bellinelli, the fellow Italian.
That was actually a team that had some good shooting off the bench.
Yeah.
Bellinelli and Ersan.
We used to really rely on it
was the year after that when they traded a lot of assets to get Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, where they had no one off the bench. And then that was the continuing theme as the years went on. And on top of that, outside of one half of the season where you had Andre Drummond as the backup center before you traded him in the trade for James Harden, and the first year with Dwight Howard, I think they eventually brought him back if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm getting confused with Andre Drummond, but Dwight Howard was pretty serviceable as a backup.
They just haven't had a guy that's like as talented as Joel Embiid.
Yeah, they've never really had a center they can bring off the bench.
Yeah, the thing is, like with Jokic,
fill and roll out. We had Kyle O'Quinn one year as our backup center.
Yeah, we talked about like the Sixers. One of the biggest reasons why they've gotten back in the series with Joel Embiid offensively is because he's able to post up in the paint. And we know Jokic is a walking triple-double, and that's like all he does. And then when he gets a shot, he's not even looking to shoot, but when he does get shooting and he just shoots over the top of everybody and scores 30 and drops like a 30, 20, 15 line, you know how big of an impact that makes for the Nuggets. That's kind of like with the Sixers where Joel's like a low-key gets like 5 assists as well, is when you take him out of the offense, like the offense completely flows through him. So they don't
James Ennis. That's what I was thinking of, James Ennis. He was like our best guy.
That was they had the other forward from the Knicks. I forget his name. That was floated around. That played for a bunch of playoff teams. That everybody that could score a little bit. Alec Burks.
A couple years ago. So he was actually decent.
But outside of like JJ Redick, like during the painful Ben Simmons years with Joel Embiid, if it was not Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons, like pin downs for JJ Redick, if those weren't working with Joel, setting up as a big man, giving a little pick, and then dishing to it, kind of like what the Warriors do with Draymond Green and Steph. The Sixers really had nothing going. And then we had guys that were like too defensively minded, like Matisse Thybulle, that are just like limited offensively, like the Dean Bonas of the world that just couldn't provide offense in those gaps when the stars weren't providing it.
Yeah, so it's kind of the
What do you think about, like, I actually get to watch the Nuggets. I like Peyton Watson as a player. I also like Christian Braun, and I know Christian Braun kind of Brown took over some of the responsibility for the Nuggets when Michael Porter Jr. left. What do you think about like the performance of those guys that have actually, not the guys that they brought in to combat the Michael Porter Jr. trade, but the guys that have been around there that haven't really stepped up to meet the expectations of Murray and Jokic?
Well, Christian Braun was a Derek White in this series, and absolutely, besides maybe for a decent Game 5 when it was back in Denver. I don't know if you saw the snapshot of him. He was on a fast break dunked, and Jaden McDaniels just happened to be standing there, and he's pointing at him while he's hanging on the rim. That's about his only highlight that he had in this entire series. Otherwise, had 3 points in a closeout game. I don't know how you make $125 million and only score 3 points in a winner-go-home scenario.
We know that as Sixers fans, Tobias Harris's last game in Philadelphia gave us a Wawa goose egg.
Yeah, so he's stealing money, so you kind of have to play him and use him, obviously. Peyton Watson, everyone's kind of pissed at him because all intents and purposes is that he was healthy enough to play and is sitting out because he also wants to get paid, and he would have been a great contributor in this series. He kind of fits that Minnesota mold of being long and lengthy and better known for his defense, as everybody knows now that the Nuggets do not have a rim protector. They're not scared to drive the ball on Joker. They're not scared to drive the ball on Aaron Gordon, who's basically their best on-ball defender when he's healthy. And he's been hurt the last 2 years, so hasn't really gave them that defense that they truly need. And so I like Peyton Watson. His offensive game's got better. His three-point shooting has gotten better. I like Christian Braun, but obviously Peyton Watson, the no-show in this series. I don't know if he was really truly sitting out because he wants a contract, but if you're not playing for the Nuggets, go in there and play for another team at least. And if he's truly hurt and truly couldn't go, then it is what it is. But Christian Braun really needed to step up in this series, and he was a no-show.
Yeah, I know what it's like as a Sixers fan. So we actually have some live comments. We have like a decent amount of live viewers. We got like 46 right now. So we have some people reacting to the Nuggets. I'm going to put this on the screen. Let me know if you can see it, and then you can react to that comment.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I tweet, is it X'd it out now? I X'd it out in the universe the other day.
Now, I keep
And
saying that myself. It's
yeah,
kind of like the
It's
comment.
technically Zeeted, but everyone's just
No,
still
it's
says
it's
tweeted.
tweet.
Yeah.
I'm still tweeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Well, I X'd it out into the universe the other day, and I said they need to have like major changes in this offseason. I would hate for Murray to leave this team, but if he's got to go to bring in like I couldn't even name your name. It's so weird that, and I'm gonna throw out two names that have been tied to the Nuggets. It's gonna sound crazy, but if you're bringing in like a guy like LeBron James or Kevin Durant, and yes, those two guys have been heavily tied to the Nuggets in the offseason, then maybe Murray has to go. I don't like it because of the age disparity, but those guys are kind of still playing it. I'm a little nervous that Kevin Durant missed a lot of these playoffs because of injury, but I mean, like LeBron said, he's beating father time right now. So if that's the case, then maybe Murray has to go. If you bring in a guy like LeBron or Kevin Durant, I think Aaron Gordon's gone anyway. But I don't know. Besides those two big names, which I don't think are really, really, I don't know, attainable, I guess, is for lack of a better term. Then yeah, you got to ship everybody out at this point. And they've already come out and said David Adelman, yes, the Mad TV comic frontman, he is apparently not going anywhere. He was not ready for this stage yet. I don't think when you have Joker and Murray playing the way they did in the regular season, they'll carry you through a regular season. But they all got exposed. That he got outcoached, and he does not know how to curate a lineup. I don't know why Valanciunas only played 4 minutes in Game 6. I don't know. I don't. Hell, just throw him and Joker out there on the same time. Like who cares? Have Valanciunas be the enforcer. Have him somebody drive to the rim. Have him knock somebody down. Get a technical. Who cares? He's not playing that much anyway.
Yeah, we talked about it when the Sixers were in a bad spot, putting Kyle Lowry in if they go down 2-0 in the series in his retirement tour and just going out there and causing a foul on Peyton Pritchard just to add a little physicality to the series and just get the OG because that's Kyle Lowry. That's exactly like what a role for somebody like him would do. So I was fully committed to that type of thing. But you talked about the lack of depth at the big man position just exposing itself. So if the Nuggets were to part in a trade, you would think it would be more so for a guy to kind of replace like that Michael Porter Jr. or maybe Aaron Gordon type role. Not saying Aaron Gordon has to leave, but if you got rid of Murray, you would want like a bigger man that can kind of help Jokic out in like the rebounding department and maybe play a little bit as like small ball five. I think I was so confused why a lot of teams weren't going after that Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, and he was able to get traded in the trade that he was traded in, and the Grizzlies moving on from him. He was defensive player of the year like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, they need that rim protection. They need that rim help. I get it. Joker's 7'3", 200 and however many pounds he is, and you know the old cliche, the Stephen A. cliche is he can't jump over a piece of paper. But also, you don't want him, for as bad as this may say, you don't want him playing that physical of defense because you do not want your entire offense fouling out of the game either. And you saw what happened. We talk about it. You get 3 fouls in the first half, you got to sit down because you're in foul trouble. So I get it. I get the defensive exposure that the Timberwolves really took advantage of in this series, but I don't understand. Like I said, I don't understand why Valanciunas didn't play that much. You brought him in to be that backup, like you were talking about when Joel Embiid goes out. You don't really have that guy to come in. Same with the Nuggets. They brought in Valanciunas to be that, and like you mentioned, Nuggets they've been trying for 8 years now to try to get that backup center to come in. Valanciunas originally did not want to come here because he knew he was not going to get that many minutes, and his worst nightmare came true. Maybe besides in the regular season, like in blowouts and stuff, they're throwing him in there. But I mean, the guy was a starter for 10 years, and now he's coming off the bench. So I understand why he did not want to kind of come here, but he eventually did, and whatever. Yeah, it is what it is.
I forgot about this situation. He had the
Yeah.
what was it, an overseas contract, and he was trying to stay there, and then he ended up getting the offer, and they had the rights, and then he ending up doing it. But he's been a player that's been effective for different teams. I remember with the Raptors, maybe that was more in his heyday, but he's been an effective big, and it's just tough because the same thing as Sixers fans that we deal with. Joel and Jokic are such traditional bigs that are so important usage-wise for the overall offense, and they're tasked on defense with being the rim protector. You can't really fit them. You're not going to move either of those guys to power forward because they can't really play that. That's just not the player they are. They're just way too big. And then it's hard to find a power forward that meshes with them on the court that can also give them a break and be like a true rebounder. That's why I think like a Jaren Jackson Jr. would be a perfect guy like that.
The Sixers tried that 1 year with Al Horford to be sort of like
absolute disaster.
Yeah, it was a total disaster. They wanted Al Horford to be the starting for that complementary piece to Embiid, and then also give him backup center minutes. And it was a total disaster. Just a disaster of a roster in general with Richardson playing the two. Yeah, and then he left the Sixers and went back to being a great player.
It's hard to find good big men out there. I mean, I like the Thunder. Obviously, that's why they're very effective. They have Chet Holmgren, who is able to play a little bit of small ball, like four-ish, and then also be a big, and then he can spell with those minutes with, I forget their other center that they had there that they got from the Knicks. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but Hartenstein. So that combo of guys that they have just a bunch of guys, and that's why they're able to go so deep in a rotation. Let's have you react to another comment here. This is Sixers based. After the news of Jayson Tatum, we have a Celtics fan checking in. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Yeah, well, we thought Minnesota was cooked when they lost three other better players, and the Nuggets did not want. They didn't feel like showing up. Very good point. But I don't know. It just seems like a different series when you already came back from a 3-1 deficit. I think the momentum, no matter who's honestly on the Celtics, I think the momentum is with the 76ers. And you like I heard you guys talking before, you're going into a hostile environment in Boston, and who is going to step into the shoes of Jayson Tatum, I think is the more important question. Like you said, Vujacic really hasn't been what I think they traded him for. And like you said, Derek White really needs to step up to fill those shoes somehow.
I think the more not plugged in NBA fan that's a little bit more on the casual scale doesn't understand how good of a rebounder Jayson Tatum is. Like this dude gets like consistently 10 rebounds a game. He is like that. He is the perfect four in today's NBA where he can go get 10 and then he can hit big shots even when he's not efficient at times. And he can also go out there and provide a triple-double. And I was saying even with Jayson Tatum, with him banged up with coming off that Achilles injury, that's maybe the risk of why you don't play him in this game, because you saw what happened with Kevin Durant back in the day with the Warriors in that situation when he was a little bit banged up and ended up getting injured in that series and hasn't been back to a championship since. But even with a hobble Jayson Tatum, if he was out on the court tonight, I still would expect Jayson Tatum to have a Jayson Tatum-like performance in Boston in Game 7.
Well, one thing I want to say, just to cut in here, is I wouldn't necessarily look at it as who is going to step up and fill in for Jayson Tatum's role. I would look at it as now is the time for Jaylen Brown to step up even more.
Yeah. And we saw Jaylen Brown put himself in the MVP race this year.
Basically, if you're Jaylen Brown, you need to have your typical Jaylen Brown production plus a Tatum level production and really put the team on your back, which to me, Jaylen Brown is.
Yeah, but I mean, this dude is already, like we talked about, he dropped 30. When Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the only guys that scored double digits, where Peyton Pritchard like barely got into double digits the other day, the Celtics have lost those games versus the Sixers. I think we talked about and mentioned the name probably 10 to 15 minutes ago, Derek White. Where's Derek White at? Someone put the Batman symbol out for Derek White. This is a dude, if you watch them during their championship run, Derek White's one of the biggest reasons why they were able to get over the hump finally and win a championship for the Boston Celtics. So he's been completely ineffective. I mean, we're talking about a dude that in the regular season averages like 5 assists, 19 points, and he's a really good rebounder because he has really good size. He kind of reminds me of like a juiced out version of Sean Livingston, of who the Warriors used to use back in the day in their rotation with Leandro Barbosa and all those guys and the pieces that they had. But Sean Livingston with that mid-range used to shoot over everybody. Derek White can score at like all three levels, and he's putting up like 7, 8, 9, and he's just not being effective. And especially they need that second guy to step up. Now's the time for him. But Jaylen Brown's put himself in the MVP race. So I think it's all the guys around them. But the issue is, without a guy like Jayson Tatum, how important he is on offense and defense and the rebounding department, especially when you have to replace him with like a Sam Hauser in the rotation, the Sixers offensively can attack the shit out of that, in my opinion, with a guy like that. That's just more so of like that Duncan Robinson shooter type. has good size, but you don't want him matching up with Paul George one-on-one, and that the Sixers are going to try and exploit those matchups. And I think exploiting those matchups and being more persistent in that department is what led to the Sixers actually getting back in the series.
Yeah, and I actually had as part of my 96 leg parlay for this game. Just kidding, it was only like a 15, but I did have Jayson Tatum at like 8+ rebounds, and it obviously got voided out. So yeah, I always look for Jayson Tatum rebounds if I do if I look at a Celtics game parlay. So yeah, so that's gonna be interesting how the Celtics make up for that. Do you guys think that they're in a winner go home game 7? I know it's only the first round. Are the Celtics thinking we can afford to sit him in this game, even though we are witnessing the 76ers come back from 3-1? Are they like, we can afford to sit him, or is it more of this guy is
I just think he's
obviously
just
coming back from Achilles, so we need to sit him?
Yeah, I think he's just too important to the grand scheme. I mean, he's a young absolute superstar. He's like the face of the franchise. Even having a guy like Jaylen Brown, you see there's so reliant on him. They've been like fortunate to have two of the best stylistic possible players you can have as a duo in the entire NBA. Not too many guys can, or too many teams can have two forwards that are that versatile, that are that high level and good at that age. So if he gets hurt and gets another major injury to stack up on top less than a year after coming off that Achilles, I think that's a nightmare situation. And that's like even maybe worse than that Kevin Durant Warriors situation that we saw back in the day. And also the same series, Klay Thompson ended up getting hurt and stacking that with another major injury. And the Warriors ended up winning another championship versus the Celtics in 2022. But Klay really hasn't been the same player since like that Kevin Durant type run when he got injured right around the same time as Kevin Durant. So I just think it's way too risky for the Celtics. And like I said, as a Sixers fan, I can't sit here and lie and say I'm not ecstatic that Jayson Tatum is not playing, but also as an NBA fan, it would be absolutely brutal in a game 7 at home to see Jayson Tatum go down with a major injury tonight because they kind of got greedy and wanted to play him in a game 7. So I just think it's just a little bit too much going on.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that is when you look at the Boston Celtics, you already have a ring with the nucleus of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? So it's not like you're in desperation mode. We have to win this year or we're going to hit the panic button. And you also look at the age of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. You know, they're both under 30 years old. You can rock with this nucleus of this elite duo for, you know, another 6 possible years maybe. And so you don't want to jeopardize that future over a game 7 in round 1 against Philly. You might.
Well, I mean, I don't know if against Philly is the right word to say because this is their arch rival, but that's also maybe that would lead into like the PR backlash of if you try to force this versus a team that's your arch rival like the Sixers and then it backfires on you. You're not only going to get clowned by your own fan base and they're not going to clown you. They're going to be irritated and very upset. And then the Sixers fan base has like that cloud over you that they're able to use for a while. But that's a great point is like in a way with Jayson Tatum is I just think it's a situation where you just can't risk it, as in he's just way too important to the grand scheme of things. I don't think it's like in a situation where they just had won a championship with this nucleus after all the years of the trade talk of splitting these two guys up. I don't think they're a team that expected to be in this situation this year because they kind of knew the timeline of this injury. And that's kind of why they got rid of and they tried to replenish their role player system, and they got rid of Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis and tried to refresh a little bit because they kind of thought it was a bridge year. But now, obviously, when you get yourself in the situation, you want to compete and always feel like you have an opportunity. You always do have an opportunity with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But I think they're just sticking to the overall grand scheme of things. And I talked about Brad Stevens being the former coach and now transitioning to the front office. I think, you know, they kind of play the long game here as opposed to just trying to live in the moment and just try to force things.
Yeah, it's crazy that Celtics won in 2022, like you mentioned, with the core nucleus. Well, especially the two guys that are their core nucleus, and Tatum and Brown, and they're not really hitting the panic button if you can afford to really sit Jayson Tatum in a game 7 like this. It's funny bringing it back to Denver. It feels like panic buttons are swirling all around here, like everything needs to be blown up.
And you won the championship what before the Celtics won their last championship?
right after.
Oh yeah. So that's So it's
If I could butt into
just-
that really
it's
fast,
just
that's
crazy
what
that-
it's like being a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Anytime the Eagles win a Super Bowl, a year or 2 years later, if things don't go exactly as planned, everyone wants to hit the panic button and fire everybody. So I know what that feels like.
it's what happens when you're in a big sports market, and Denver might not be as like, I wouldn't say that, but Philadelphia is as like, a big overall city for many different things, and especially a sports market. But Denver has very important teams to the grand scheme of things as well. And I think they're in a situation where they kind of react the same way as Philadelphia reacts, as they hit the panic button because they are always trying to capitalize on a championship window that's there in front of them right now.
Yeah, and maybe like Philly, maybe like all these other cities, we've honestly been spoiled over the last, I would say, decade. Going back to the Broncos winning in 2015, and then the Avalanche in 2022, the Nuggets right after. So we had back-to-back parades with two different teams, with the Avs in 2022 and the Nuggets in 2023. So you get that. When you're spoiled, I think, as a sports city, that's when you're like the impatience. Not only are you spoiled, but you get impatient and you want it, like you said, to replicate every single year. And so you're kind of sitting on edge. This is going to be an interesting off season. So we will see what happens. By the way, I do agree with another Unchained comment on your guys' YouTube channel. The whole FOKC as a staff. I like that. I like that comment as well. Couldn't agree more. And unfortunately, I think they're still going to come out of the West, but I do like that comment.
That's pretty crazy for LeBron James to be a plus 1,500 underdog in a playoff series. I didn't think I would ever see that, but I don't know. As big as a LeBron fan as I've been my entire life, I don't know if I thought he would still be dropping 30-point near triple doubles at the age of 41 and beat a bunch of NBA former lottery draft picks in the past recent memory. So you never know with the NBA. I think OKC, the thing is, they're so deep in their rotation. It just seems like that rotation's been working out for them. 13 guys, and there's always somebody, whether it's a former Sixer and Isaiah Joe showing up out of nowhere, which is a guy like.
How about the guy on the Spurs? Speaking of former Sixers showing up in the playoffs,
Julian Champagne.
Yeah, who was released Mac, so that Mac McClung could wear a Sixers jersey at the dunk contest.
Yeah, Julian Champagne. I think he had like a 9-3 game this year or something like that too. So I mean, they've moved on. That's what happens when you have the pieces and foundation like the Jamal Murrays and Nikola Jokic for so long. You build your entire franchise around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, or whoever is in that spot. The Sixers have been switching it up. But Murray, and they've tried so many different things around Murray and Jokic. You get rid of guys that isn't there. Michael Porter Jr. is the perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Michael Porter Jr. To think what you guys got back in the trade and what the stock and the trade value of Michael Porter Jr. is now for the Nets. I mean, I know he's not going to remain in net for that much longer. I don't know if it's going to be this offseason or the trade deadline, but I assume he's probably going to go for like 3-4 first-round picks and maybe 2 high-level rotation players.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a crazy amount that Brooklyn might get in return. And for MPJ, I know maybe you guys saw the comments. I think it was yesterday where he said they shouldn't have traded me, talking about Denver. It was a love-hate relationship, I think, towards the end with MPJ and the fans of Denver. I personally think it was time to move on, and maybe now me and probably countless others are eating our words. But I will say, if MPJ, Gordon, and even Russell Westbrook last year were 100% healthy, they may have won that OKC series. Maybe you do not see.
Well, do you think you kind of like fell victim to expecting Aaron Gordon to perform the same way injured he did last season, this season again, and maybe the Nuggets fell victim to that as well? And when they didn't get that type of contribution from him this series, it kind of flared out on them in a way.
I don't know if it was expecting, but when Aaron Gordon, I think he missed upwards of 40 games this season. He missed half the season this year.
Yeah.
As soon as he got hurt going into the playoffs and in the playoffs, I knew they weren't going to be a title contender this year. Maybe they would have got past Minnesota again without their kind of their 3 top players. I know Dosunmu was coming off the bench, but I knew they weren't going to win a title without a healthy Aaron Gordon. And last year, I mean, Michael Porter Jr. was wearing a diaper on his arm. Like he could not lift his arm and that was another bad coaching decision by guess who else? David Edelman, because you got rid of Michael.
I think
Loma.
the one game he was still banging threes too. He still was hitting shots in the one game, and like you could literally see in his shot, especially with him being as big as he is with his wingspan, like he has a very distinct shot, and his shooting rotation wasn't going past his ear. It wasn't even.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and then Russell Westbrook ended up having a broken hand, and obviously Aaron Gordon's calf issues, which you when you have a calf issue, it sucks and it's lingering, and we've seen the effects of it this year. So I don't know. Maybe if they were healthy last year, you don't see OKC lift the trophy, but obviously it's easier said than done. And this year, I think coaching is a big part of it. When your coach is soft, that's going to rub off on your team, and at some point you got to match other teams' physicality, no matter who you are. I know if you're the Nuggets, you're kind of a fast-paced finesse team, but when it comes to playoffs, when it comes to you lose and you go home, you got to match physicality at some point, and they just didn't do that.
So you just talked about physicality here. How physical do you think this game is going to get? Do you think that's something that the Boston Celtics are going to try and press the issue with the Sixers, knowing they're without Jayson Tatum and they're at home for this game 7?
Well, like I heard you guys talk before too, like who can guard a guy like Joel Embiid? I forgot the dude's name on Boston.
They're trying to use right now Namus Keita,
who's
gotten in foul trouble, and obviously Joel's a great foul shooter. They're trying to also use Nikola Vucevic, who the Sixers drafted and traded after his rookie season back in the day. So it's full circle that Joel Embiid is absolutely cooking him now. And then they're also trying to use former, I think, Purdue big man, Luka Garza is the other big man. And then kind of Brandon Walsh kind of plays like small ball 5 randomly, positionless basketball. But like big man wise, those are like the 3 names that they're trying to stop Joel Embiid with, and those guys are just collecting fouls and getting taken off the games because they were really effective when Joel wasn't. Like Nikola Vucevic hasn't been effective like the 20 and 10 Magic days and Bulls when he was there a couple years ago, but he was playing all right. Keita was really the X factor, killed us all in the regular season this entire year when we split 2-2 with them. And maybe that's another reason we haven't put too much stock into it. Tatum's been hurt. Joel's missed games, and VJ Edgecombe's debut when Tyrese Maxey dropped like 39 or 41 and VJ dropped 34 in his debut. There was no Tatum in that game. There was no Joel Embiid. Now we go into game 7 with Jayson Tatum came back and is now out of the series. You would think Joel Embiid wouldn't be involved in the series. The tides have turned in that way, and that's what's interesting because in the regular season, these two teams split. So, Mike, do you put too much stock, like being a team from the Western Conference, and how competitive those regular season games get as well? How much stock do you put into what happened in the regular season as opposed to you knowing a limited playoff rotation is going to make the playoff series look a lot different than the regular season?
I don't know, because I don't put too much stock in regular season matchups. I know they're going to get brought up like, oh, they were 2-2 against them, whatever. But Minnesota did not play this good against the Nuggets in the regular season. And then you have those extra bulletin board materials. Like you mentioned, I'm not sure of the regular season history this year between I think you said they went 2-2 against each other. I think that all kind of goes in the garbage. The old cliche is it's a brand new season. We're 0-0, and we just gotta fight it out. And especially when you see so much of each other in the regular season, and now you go to 7 games in a playoff matchup, maybe you can start looking back and say, hey, this worked in the regular season, that worked in the regular season. Let's push these buttons. Let's pull these cards out. Maybe you can start looking back at regular season tricks and tips. But overall, I think they all have the view that this is a new season. And that's why I brought up the rotation thing a little bit earlier. I'm like, I was glad that Adelman put Tyus Jones in, of all people, in a couple of minutes for the Nuggets, because Minnesota's not game planning against Tyus Jones. Like he's been on 3 different teams this year. Like Timberwolves are not game planning against Tyus Jones. That's why I was like, I don't know why the rotations kind of tighten up. I know you said it depends on depth, but I like when a guy's thrown in there and becomes a playoff hero. It's almost like, yeah, because you know why? They didn't scout for that. So I kind of like those more open-ended rotations in playoff teams. But yeah, maybe you do dig back in the past and say, hey, this worked way back in November against the Celtics. So that's what we're going to do in this game to see if we can throw them off guard a little bit.
Yeah, and you talked about like just the difference. We talked about the rotations and what teams and coaches go to, but you can talk about it's a completely different series. You can even say that for a game 7 in itself, where it's a do or die situation, as opposed to an 8-man rotation tonight for the Sixers. We might see a 6 or 7-man rotation. Andre Drummond play 8 minutes and Joel go 40 with the appendectomy, and maybe Justin Edwards spell Paul George for 6 minutes or something. And Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, well, that would be 8.
Well, I'm saying, like, when I'm bringing up 6 or 7 guys, like 6 to 8 minutes is like very sparing. Like Quentin Grimes will actually play minutes, but
I see what you mean.
Joel Embiid's not going to be on the court is not going to be away from the court for more than 15 minutes in this game tonight.
And the thing I find funny is, when you say, you love it when a random role player has a big performance in the playoffs because they didn't scout for him. I can tell you, as a Sixers fan, throughout the entire Joel Embiid era, and not even just the Embiid era, I will also say during the Iverson era as well, we've never really been able to rely on anyone on our bench having a big performance. It seems like every year in the postseason, when you look at the box score for a Sixers playoff game, you see all of the points accumulated by the starting lineup, and then you see maybe like 6 bench points.
Well, I think we were such Ace Bailey guys.
Other than the one Quentin Grimes game this
We
year.
were Ace Bailey guys going in the draft, and then when we started to hear the rumors about VJ really come to light, we were trying to still think they might pivot to Ace Bailey at the end, but we love VJ Edgecombe as a guy that's just so selfless as the 3rd overall pick. But all those years that with the lack of success for Sixers playoffs had everything to do with them like tunnel visioning their roster construction on guys that can fit around Joel Embiid, as opposed to guys that can more so complement Joel Embiid and also show up when they need to. Because we had a bunch of like Matisse Thybulles that can only play defense. He can't play perimeter actual offense for you. And we were used to put Matisse Thybulle out in playoff games for what, 25, 30 minutes on the court? So and that's just ridiculous.
And not only that, as good of a player as Ben Simmons was, as talented of a player as he was, the issue with him and Embiid on the court together was when you're trying to work Joel Embiid's offense in the low post and you have Ben Simmons where they don't have to guard him on the perimeter and they're able to just bring that guy in and put extra attention on Joel Embiid with 0 consequences, because you can't just pass out to Ben because he's not going to do anything if you do. That really hampered.
Well, that's the issue with the NBA playoff rotations as well, is because you can't put guys. He was the main facilitator for the Sixers, but that might be an issue with the Nuggets struggling to find a big man. Jokic can make a 3 when he needs to. He's not always going to rely on the 3, but when he gets cooking, he will shoot 5 threes in a game and make 3 or 4 of them. You can't just put out a traditional backup big, which this is 95% of the profile of a backup that's going to try to be the backup for Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. You can't just find a guy that's like a stretch 5 that can play like Kristaps Porzingis and give you like 15 and 5, even though I don't think Kristaps.
We do have the best stretch 5 in the game right now, Andre Drummond.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous. Andre Drummond is now starting to make 3s. Like it literally doesn't even.
He's hitting them efficiently.
I don't know on your 15 leg parlay that made it on there, but Andre Drummond. When I first started this series, I think for game 1, I noticed on my Done Deals betting podcast that he had the same odds to get 10 rebounds with Joel Embiid missing from the lineup as he had to make a 3 in the game. And if you know Andre Drummond's game, like from his prime days to now, to think he's evolved into shooting 3s in a playoff game is pretty ridiculous.
So in this series, he has shot a total of 1, 2, 3, 5. No, sorry, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. He shot 6 threes this series, and he's made 5. No, he's made 4 of them. He's 4 for 6 from 3 in this series against Boston, which is
but that might be something he can hit like 2. I remember the iconic, my favorite NBA playoff game and NBA game of all time, the iconic LeBron Game 7 3-1 comeback, and Draymond Green was banging 3s in that Game 7. It's like if somebody like that, the Celtics can, like Nikola Vucevic, can turn into Magic Bulls Nikola Vucevic and draw Joel Embiid, maybe get him in foul trouble. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Joel's just going to absolutely cook him. But this is a guy that averaged 20 and 10 a couple years ago. Those are the guys that, in this situation, Jayson Tatum's out. If the Celtics want any chance, it's going to have to be from Peyton Pritchard getting back to sixth man of the year, or with like a Nikola Vucevic resurgence. But I know Mike's running on limited time. So before we get out of here, I'm going to give you 1 minute, Mike, to tell me why Nikola Jokic. I know you've been very fair to us. You know, this is the first time we've been able to link up for a podcast. You've been very fair, and you haven't talked too much smack on Joel Embiid.
Hey, I thought I was going to
Game
catch a lot
7.
of...
Give me a minute for give us a minute of why Nikola Jokic is a better player than Joel Embiid.
I think availability. That's really the only thing, and that's not even really I always feel bad for. I hate the term like injury-ridden guys. Like, I mean, if that were the case, Jamal Murray's been injury-ridden. This is the 2 healthiest years he's had, and he was an all-star
in that direction as well. Michael Porter Jr. was that. That's why.
Yep.
Maybe
he kind of broke free of that. Aaron Gordon was always healthy until the last couple of years. So I think availability. Again, we only see Joel Embiid, obviously, you know, when the Nuggets play him or in the playoffs because they're on national TV. But I don't really hear Joel Embiid, you know, defensive prowess. Joel Embiid, is he kind of like also Jokic in that way where?
Well, that was like I said.
Or is he a better rim protector than Jokic is?
Well, prime Joel Embiid is like he's a 3 or 4 time second team all defensive member, so one of the top 10 defensive players in the league. So especially big man wise, he's getting back to it a little bit. But the first game he came back in the series, that was one of the weaknesses. They really attacked it on the Celtics side. Once I felt like they got the defensive infrastructure strategy-wise, I think he played a lot better the second game, and he has been playing better. And it's not the 35-point Joel Embiid anymore that's showing up. It's like the 20, 10, 7, 2 blocks, and a lot of altered shots at the rim as a rim protector.
What I'll say is, so Joel Embiid, his defense was always different from Jokic. Like, if we're looking at prime defensively, Joel Embiid, whereas I feel Jokic, when he's in good position down low, he's able to use his size to block shots. That was never really Joel Embiid's game defensively. Joel Embiid was much more of a better, like, on-ball defender, would do a great job at staying with this guy. I remember the first time we ever saw Joel Embiid play basketball for the Sixers was in the preseason game against the Wizards. And in that game, John Wall had Embiid isolated on the perimeter and was not able to get past Joel Embiid. So that is kind of more so what Joel Embiid's strengths were on defense, and he was an elite defender. Now, at this point in his career, he's not an elite defender anymore. His defense has definitely dropped off considerably. The other thing I will say,
definitely still an above average defender.
Yeah,
like significantly above average defender, but not elite.
But the one thing I will also say is, while his defense has dipped off, his ability to facilitate has really improved recently.
And it's always about evolving your game.
He doesn't turn the ball over as much. Early in Embiid's career, the one knock on his game was a lot of times when you would give him the ball in the low post and they would bring a double team, he would cough it up almost immediately. Now he's passing out of it. He's getting guys open. So that part of his game has actually really improved, on the other hand.
Yeah, so that's just how we see it from Joel Embiid's side. But, Mike, thank you for joining us today. One last thing, if you have 2 things you can tell me to expect from the Nuggets in the offseason, what would those things be?
I hope they get some kind of defensive, I like maybe a 3 or a 4. Maybe you do replace Aaron Gordon. I hope they get some kind of defensive rim protection that you can play out there with Jokic at the same time. I would like to see a new head coach, but I do not think that is in store, at least for season 2 of David Adelman. But
Mike Malone just he got hired at UNC. Was it UNC?
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's a big time job. That's almost like NBA level, like notoriety.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I do expect it. They are owned by the Cronkies, who own a lot of sports teams in the sports world, and they're pretty impatient as well. So, maybe we do. I hope we do see a wholesale changes, because I unfortunately do not see another run with the group as currently constructed. But Also, just had a quick question. How about another thing we have in common as well is a hockey team advancing to the second round. So, what is your guys's thoughts on the Carolina series with the Flyers?
I saw you pulled a clip of me talking about Denver Barkey being like an iconic name. I don't know if you pulled it with the connection of Denver and recliner media in that way, or how you found that clip. But yeah, as for the Flyers, they had a guy. They didn't end up winning the game, but they had the dude. What was the dude's name? Adam something. He was the guy that went from their side of the zone with their goalie all the way down the opposite side by himself in his first career game in the NHL, which was a playoff game in Game 6, and score a goal. So they've been having guys like that randomly show up. I think Game 1, they had 2 defensemen score goals for them. And Porter Martone, obviously, they called up. He was just playing college hockey not too long ago. And the situation of his team being eliminated and him being available for the Flyers, he's made a significant impact, where he only had 9 NHL games going into the playoffs. And then he is the youngest teenager in the history, or youngest rookie in the history of the NHL, to have back-to-back games scored in the NHL playoffs. So I think they're in really good shape. As Flyers fans, I mean, obviously you see we're not representing them right now, but I do probably watch the Flyers once or twice a week, but not as many days of the week as I watch these other sports. But I do keep up with the Flyers. The big narrative behind the Flyers the past couple of years is when they got Matvei Michkov. Everybody thought that was the face of the franchise, but now it really seems like they're overall a selfless team. They got guys on contracts like 8 for $49 with Owen Tippett that they're locked into. They got Zegras, which was a bargain, and he's played really well for us this year.
Well, the biggest impact has been Vladar, a guy who was a
they finally found a
goalie.
You want to talk about like this center situation, like enforcement, like centers and basketball and rim protecting and facilitating offense. The goalie on the defensive side in hockey, I mean, we went through all the years with Carter Hart, and we know the situation that happened with him that we don't have to speak on. But since we moved on from him, Vladar has been a guy that's the same age as me and Dante, a career backup that has finally found a spot on this team. And I'm so glad.
42 saves.
Yeah, exactly what I was just about to say. Arguably the greatest performance by a Flyers goalie in the history of the NHL playoffs, 42 saves and an overtime shutout victory to close out their arch rival, the Penguins.
I was at that game. It was purely electric when York hit the game-winning goal. It was unlike.
And this is the first season since 2019 that the Flyers have been actually involved in the playoffs. They got into the playoffs on the berth of beating the number 1 seed in the Carolina Hurricanes in the regular season. The Hurricanes in that game clinched because the game went into overtime, and then the Flyers ended up winning in a shootout, which that was one of the reasons why the Flyers won a lot of regular season games and had enough points to qualify for the playoffs this year. They were really, really effective in shootouts. I think they had like a 70-plus win percentage in shootouts this year. So, but obviously playoff hockey, we talked about the difference of rotations and stuff. That's not an element of playoff hockey, just like the ghost runner in baseball as well. So as for the Flyers, they're matching back up with Carolina, the number 1 seed. It's going to be a tough task, but
very tough.
I know Joel Embiid is involved in this game, but with VJ Edgecombe secured as the number 3 overall pick of this past draft for the Sixers, they're not in a do-or-die situation to win this game with having the future of their franchise already on the roster and the Tyrese Maxey.
The Flyers are playing
as long as money. Yeah, and also I feel like the Flyers with Porter Martone and all these guys being so young, they're in that exact same situation.
Yeah, so I hope that would be cool if they came out of the East and it was a Colorado.
Yeah, last time we made it to the Stanley Cup, I think that was 2010 versus the Chicago Blackhawks, and we lost on one of the most disgusting sideways goals of all time. You put that right up there with the double doink of the Kawhi shot, which we saw the recreation of the Tyrese Halliburton shot that roped into the shot last night with RJ Barrett. So sports are just absolutely crazy, and we have no clue what to expect in this Game 7, but all we can hope is the Sixers go out there and win on the road, which is a tough task to ask. But Mike, thank you for joining the show. If you got any last comments or you want to plug yourself before you get out of here, please do.
I think we're in Denver just hoping because now the Avalanche are playing Minnesota, so we're hoping they can avenge the Nuggets by beating their hockey team. So
yeah, and if you want to tie that in real quickly, we were beaten down on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then Howie Roseman goes into Pittsburgh at the NFL draft and trades up for Mekhi Lemon while he's on the phone with the Steelers, and it's a viral video. So we're putting belt to Pittsburgh sports
Well, we
ass right
did.
now.
We
So,
did. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's
and we got some more
concluded
belt
now.
too. If the Steelers want to come back around, we got some belt for them too. We remember that Carson Wentz game when it was like 35-3 in the prime Darren Sproles
I
on the
think
team.
it's 6, but yeah.
I grew up a Ravens guy, so I hate the Steelers. But thanks, Mike, for joining the show, and best of luck with Denver sports and everything moving forward.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes,
See you,
sir.
Mike.
See you.
So that is the owner of Recliner Media Sports Network. Finally, glad to bring him onto the show. Set up the banner for us on here, and sponsors us as well.
What I
so
do like
it's great
about
to have
the
him on.
banner is I like how at the bottom where it says featuring our Paisan Sports Crew, I like how they colored the lettering to make it look like the Italian flag. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, he
Shout out to
kind of
Mike
switched
for
up a
that.
little bit.
Shout out
Yeah,
to Mike.
he's
Shout out
always
to
good
Mike.
with the graphics, so we appreciate it. And we've been affiliated with them for just around like almost half the time that the podcast has been running. We don't have to get the exact number off the top of the head because you waste 45 to a minute.
Well, because you were wrong about that.
Yeah, you just want to waste 2 minutes every single time about thinking about that. But yeah, but no, because you say the wrong names, and then when I say it, then you want to bring it up. But when I say, oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but we've been affiliated with them for very long. We have been affiliated with them for a long time, and we just got the now. If you guys want a little hint and a trick why I'm effective with sports betting on NBA, one of the keys to it is Fantasy Labs NBA social media posts, and they have the live update that Joel Embiid and Paul George are both active. And I think they actually got that from the Philadelphia 76ers starting lineup post. So tonight, the starters for the Philadelphia 76ers are Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre, and Paul George. So we said they've been going with the 8-man rotation. We could see only 6 or 7 tonight, or 8 guys in sparing minutes and 6 total that actually play true minutes. What do you think about this specific lineup? Would there be anything that you would tweak, as in maybe put Quentin Grimes into the lineup for Kelly Oubre?
I wouldn't tweak a single thing. That's what they've been rolling with. I like that lineup a lot. I wouldn't change a single thing about it.
What do you think a game like this is going to play out to be? Regular season, when there's more guys involved, there's a little bit more stamina, a little bit more time for guys to recover. We see these higher totals hitting in the NBA. The Sixers, they average, I think, like somewhere in the over 110 range. A lot of teams in the NBA do. If you don't average over 110 points in today's NBA, you're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. These playoff games, especially when you're playing 6 or 7 guys, we might see an 89-84 game in Boston tonight. What do you think about the scoring with the limited action, especially with a player like Jayson Tatum not being involved in the game?
Well, you're talking. I was just looking to see if
the live over under to answer my own question.
I was trying to see if Boston had posted their starting lineup to see who's playing in place of Tatum, but I couldn't find anything. So I was a little distracted with that. What was your question again?
I'm saying in a game like this with limited rotation, we're probably not going to see a lot of scoring in this game. We could see like an 89-84. The live over under for this game right now, according to FanDuel that I had pulled up, is over 204.5. So 204.5 points either way to hit for the over. So that would mean if both teams push this into overtime and regulation, which doesn't matter because this could hit in overtime if it goes in overtime, but both teams would have to score at least 102 for this over to hit. We could see maybe a 113-89. I think the Sixers almost had the exact same score in 2 of those games. It was like 115-97, 114-97, something like that. So
I don't think it's going to be as low scoring as you're thinking. It's going to be.
You don't think it's going to be prime Celtics, Lakers, NBA Finals, Kobe versus
I think it's going to
the
be
Big Four, like 83-78
I think it's going to be
Finals games?
I think it's going to be a modern NBA high scoring game.
Modern NBA high scoring game without Jayson Tatum involved. And
Yeah, I mean,
6 to 7 guys playing total in the game.
They got role players that can really shoot, man. They got role players that can really light it up from 3. And the Sixers, I mean, they have a lot of options on offense. Yeah, I would definitely think it would be. I mean, what is the total points of 89-86? That is.
That'd be 14
That's
off,
an
11
over
off,
under
25.
of
That'd be
175.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's gonna be more high scoring than that.
Joel Embiid's actually his over-under listed for the game right now. If you just look for the betting lines, not to, we could do the Paisan picks right now if you do want to get into it. So I'll put my phone right here. We'll bring that back up right now. So Joel Embiid's over 26.5 points for the game at plus 102 at plus money play. Would you stamp that for a Paisan pick?
Game 7. Yeah, I would take the.
They're going to be throwing a lot of different bodies at him, which means they could also get somebody to take some fouls versus him. But at the end of the day, Keita, Vucevic, they want to run small ball Walsh on him, and Garza, they just have not been able to stop him, and he's an excellent free throw shooter. So 10 of these 14 of these points could come from the free throw line tonight from Joel Embiid if they start trying to use that tactic.
Yeah, I would even maybe take Joel Embiid 30 plus.
Maybe we try to. Maybe we'll see like a hack a Andre Drummond situation, the limited minutes that he's in. Maybe that's what the Celtics will try to do to save some time and get him to miss free throws. But you can't do that to Joel Embiid, so that's not a tactic you can use.
Yeah, and
Tyrese Maxey's
not going to be on the court enough to.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's not going to be an effective way to it, and that's not really a part of today's game because bigs are just better than that usually, starting guys. But Tyrese Maxey over 24.5 points at minus 102.
Well, if you're taking the Joel Embiid over, I would accompany that with the Tyrese Maxey under. They don't typically both drop 25 plus. So if you're expecting a 30-point Joel Embiid game,
I don't know if I would say that. I think that was a trend a year or two ago when they both were completely healthy. That was hitting very consistently.
Well, so far in this series, that's been the case.
I know it might not be today's Sixers basketball, but getting 25 from both of those guys.
Now, Paul George
at
over
15.5, that's
I would hammer that over.
I had him on that original. I had him on the original.
I would take Paul George at 20 plus.
VJ at over 11.5. I would hammer that. I'm not just going to go down the line and say I'm going to hammer all these, but I feel better about VJ's over 11.5 than Tyrese's.
I like VJ and Paul George is the best, I think, out of the four. Kelly Oubre, that's really hit or miss at 9.
I'm not just going to
Quentin Grimes at 6.
I'm not going to go sell out and just say that Paul George at a low number and VJ are both.
Brown,
all right, I'm not going to go sell out and say Paul George and VJ are they're over 15.5 for Paul George and 11.5 for VJ. But I actually think Joel Embiid, I think he's going to get 26.5 tonight. I think that's going to hit. Jaylen Brown's at over 30.5.
I'm hammering that Jaylen Brown 30.5.
I mean, if he's not efficient, though, it doesn't matter how many shots he takes. Like, the Sixers can throw all their bodies pretty much at him and force Derek White to have a great game. And I'll live with Derek White scoring 30 if that means that Jaylen Brown's going to have to pass the ball out of his hands all game long. Maybe Peyton Pritchard will fill in those minutes. He's at over 17.5 too. But I think Jaylen Brown's completely capable of scoring 30.5. I would feel better about 30. I would alternate if I wanted to go that way.
I would expect a 35-point performance from Jaylen Brown.
I just think the Sixers just know that's how they'll lose if he drops that. If there's a chance the Celtics have a chance, they need OG Nikola Vucevic from years past to show up. They need Sixth Man of the Year Peyton Pritchard to show up and Derek White to all show up around Jaylen Brown. But I think, yeah, he can easily get 30.5. I also think it wouldn't be a bad bet to take his under because if he's not efficient, I mean, the Sixers can really lock in on him on defense. They have a lot of perimeter guys actually nowadays to throw at him. So it's a different ballgame when Jayson Tatum's not involved. And Jayson Tatum averages like 10 rebounds. So Jaylen Brown's expected to get 8 at plus 108. Joel's going to have to rebound. And I think in this, Joel hasn't been the best rebounder we talked about in years past. And usually his 8 rebounds is at like minus 150. But tonight it's at minus 205. It just moved to because I think everybody knows he's going to probably play 40 minutes tonight. And rebounding is going to be a huge part of the Sixers' success if Joel Embiid's able to do that for them. Who's a random performer that the Sixers will have tonight? Like a random.
No one.
Give me a give me. You didn't let me finish. You didn't let me finish. A statistic like Quentin Grimes getting rebounds out of nowhere. Kelly Oubre rebounding the shit out of the ball. Like, what's a random category? A player you know is going to play for the Sixers tonight can really be the X factor.
A player that's going to be the X factor. I honestly maybe, even though I just said he'll play limited minutes. You know, at first I was going to say Andre Drummond off the bench. Maybe he can, incorporate some key defense or rebounding. But actually, maybe Kelly Oubre. I mean, Kelly Oubre really shows up big with some of his cuts to the basket, some of his timely threes, his good defense. I would say, if anybody, I would say Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, and Kelly Oubre obviously was a big part of that really big sequence we've seen recently. So I can bring up the odds right now, but give me a final score prediction. You think it's going to be a high-scoring modern NBA game, which I think is pretty crazy. You were right about the Joel Embiid, which I called you crazy for saying he was going to play, but I think that's what you're saying now is even crazier, as in the situation the Celtics are in and how they're going to be able to produce offense. I just saw you were trying to pull up that starting lineup, and I saw who was involved in that starting lineup. A guy like Ron Harper Jr. is playing in this playoff game. It's starting for the Celtics, and you think this is going to be a modern scoring NBA overhitting game. So explain to me why you think that.
I already explained why. I think Jaylen Brown is going to put up a lot of points. I think Peyton Pritchard.
And give me a score if that would like
a final score prediction.
Yeah, like a range. You don't have to give
Well,
me an exact
I
number.
I think I think this will be a game that's decided by 3 points or less. So I don't know, maybe 106-104.
106-104. You want to sweating the whole time like that? That would barely hit the over too. That would be 210 to the over 204.5. So 106-104. Sixers get it done on the road.
Man. Well, I didn't even say Sixers get it done. I just said 106-104.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I want an overall final prediction. I'm obviously going to go with the Sixers tonight. I'm going to go with the Sixers getting it done, and I think the Sixers are going to win 103-96. And I think that because I think the Celtics will have a late run with the role players and be able to get some threes off, but I think the pace the Sixers set and the distance they're going to be able to get early in the game is just going to be enough to hold off the Celtics in a late surge at the end of the game that makes it scary for us Sixers fans when we think that we haven't clinched. But I'm going to go with the Sixers. I don't think I want to shock me over 204 in an NBA game and a half would hit, but I don't think that's going to happen in this game just because I think the stakes are a little bit too high and it's just going to be there's going to be a lot of physicality in this game, and a lot of players are going to be getting banged up. We'll see how physical it does get between two teams that are arch rivals to each other. So, Dante, I think you're leaving everybody with a little bit of suspense as we have a little bit more time before we get out of here. But you said you don't know if the Sixers are going to get it done. I need to hear your final prediction if the Sixers are going to walk away and get themselves into the second round.
It's tricky because, all series, even since winning the other night, I've been strongly feeling like Boston is going to win the series. The past couple of days, I've strongly felt Boston is going to win this game tonight. Now with Jayson Tatum out, now I'm just a bit uncertain because that definitely does work in the Sixers' favor. But this also does. Would it shock me that Jayson Tatum's out and the Sixers still go on to lose? No, that would not shock me at all. So I honestly, it's kind of a toss up to me right now, as of this moment, if I'm going to be honest. If you want me to give a definite,
thanks for giving me the runaround for 3 minutes.
Celtics. I'll give you Celtics. Celtics win. How about that? You happy now? There's my prediction.
I'm trying to keep it centered on this podcast. So I want to hit you with an elbow right now, if we're being honest, because I think it's absolute bullshit, Dante. And the last thing I'm going to say before we get out of here on the Paisan Sports podcast before Game 7 versus the Boston Celtics in Boston tonight as a Philadelphia 76ers fan, sports media member, freelance covering, whatever you want to consider it, covering it for Recliner Media and Philadelphia sports as a whole. I've been through the thick and the thin with this team, Dante. And for you to sit up here and then give us the opportunity and finally look like the team that we've always dreamed them to be, and for you to say that you don't think they're going to win in Game 7 on the road in Boston minus Jayson Tatum really gets me fired up. So I'm going to give you 1 minute of why I think the Sixers are going to get it done in Game 7. Here's why the Sixers are going to get it done in Game 7. You don't every day are able to land a 2025 number 3 overall NBA draft pick. Obviously, it's specific to the year, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's not every day that you get an NBA lottery draft pick that's willing to do all the dirty work, which VJ Edgecombe has proven that he's able to do in his rookie year and impact the game this young into his career. So with a guy like that, being the X factor, being able to show you that he can score 6 to 7 3-pointers, dropping 34 points in his first career NBA playoff game on the road in Boston versus the same Boston Celtics team that was missing Jayson Tatum in that exact moment. That same Sixers team that didn't have Joel Embiid for that game. The same team that was led by Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Guess what, Dante? Joel Embiid's fucking playing tonight. And you know what that means? The Sixers are going to shit on the Celtics tonight. That's what I actually truly think is going to happen. I was trying to be modest and think that it was going to be a 7-point game, but now I'm turning the tides a little bit. I actually think the Sixers are going to put belt to the Celtics' ass tonight. And I think the Luka Garzas of the world are going to make the Celtics realize that they kind of messed up their depth. And they might not have thought that they were going to be in this situation this year to compete. And Jayson Tatum is now out, which they kind of expected, but they should have gotten the roster in better shape than having Nikola Vucevic to match up with Joel Embiid in the playoff game. As for Paul George, battling through the illness tonight, this dude got suspended for 25 games for a drug infraction. As Philadelphia sports fans, we just went through it last year when we flared out when we didn't have a reliever in Jose Alvarado for the playoff run out of the bullpen. We just went through that. If Paul George doesn't show up tonight, and you're actually right on the prediction of the Celtics winning, and it's because Paul George doesn't show up and he got suspended for this year, get him off the team. I don't care what he's done in recent memory for the Sixers or what he's done leading up to this Game 7. If Paul George doesn't show up tonight, I'm done with Paul George. So
wait, okay, but hold on now. How come we're not allowed to discredit James Harden for not showing up in Game 6 and 7 3 years ago because he did so many great things the rest of the series? But now Paul George has played great the entire series, but if he has a poor Game 7, then forget about him.
Because I think nobody showed up in that game, and I think they just didn't play defense as well.
What if nobody shows up in this game?
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think that now. Actually, don't cut me off because I don't think that's fair because I just don't. This isn't the same team. You keep trying to bring up these old references. This isn't the same team. I'm not going to talk anymore about any other team besides the 2025 Sixers. So as for the 2025-2026 Sixers in this game tonight, Paul George, I have him for 15 points. I don't care if he hits my bet or not. If they win the game, it is what it is. But if he doesn't show up and do the little things, if he's not scoring, if he's not passing the ball and facilitating, if he's not rebounding the ball, we talked about their lack of rebounding when they didn't have Joel in the series and the lack of rebounding with Andre Drummond and VJ Edgecombe being the only guys that were doing it until Joel came back in the series. If we get one of those type of performances where the role players start to play like they did early in the series when the Celtics were beaten down on them, when they did have Jayson Tatum, and they show up like that without Jayson Tatum in the lineup tonight, I mean, they are playing with house money. VJ Edgecombe's rookie year. Tyrese Maxey is the face of the franchise. But if you want to talk about the Joel Embiid championship window, this could be it.
Oh, no. I mean, I would say this is definitely it. Now, listen, just to clarify, it's not like I don't really, really want the Sixers to win. I just, I've seen this movie too many times to say that the Sixers are going to win tonight. But I hope you're right.
I mean, I see Ron Harper in the junior in the starting lineup and Shireman for the Celtics tonight and Luka Garza in the playoff game. Derek White, who hasn't shown up. Jaylen Brown put himself in the MVP race to begin this year and all throughout the season without Jayson Tatum. Without Jayson Tatum tonight, the Celtics are going to lose by double digits. And I moved my prediction from 103 to 97, and I'm actually going to move it up to 109 to 95. Sixers win by 14 on the road. Celtics fans walk out.
There you have it.
So thank you guys for tuning in to the NBA Live preview show of Game 7 Eastern Conference playoffs, round 1, to arch rivals and the 76ers and the Boston Celtics. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow Recliner Media as well as Paisan Sports. We're the Paisan Sports crew. What's the Deal Sports, Zach Deal, along with Dante. Somehow, when I put those names in the one camera media slot that we had, I had them backwards. So I think everybody by now that watches the podcast, even though we had a nice
Dante,
little spot.
I'm Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, you could never be that wavy to think of something like that. You could never craft something like that. You could never craft what Joel Embiid's going to craft up.
I gotta get the hell out of here so I can watch the game.
So we're about to go watch the game. We got 10 minutes till tip off, but thank you guys for tuning in to Paisan Sports live preview show of Game 7 of the Boston Celtics versus the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll be back live tomorrow for the reaction of tonight's game, and you'll probably see us all over social media, regardless of result of the game posting content. So, like I said, go make sure you subscribe and like and follow Paisan Sports on all social media platforms. We're cooking content on TikTok every day, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, all those, all that good stuff, as well as Recliner Media. We're live on all those pages as well. And What's the Deal Sports. Go check all that stuff out. I have content and, been doing interviews with a lot of MMA content recently. So go check all that stuff out. But Sixers win 109-95. For you saying the Celtics will win, what's the score going to be? You said 106, 104?
106, 104.
All right. Dante's committed to that result. So I'll be back tomorrow to slam Dante's head into this table. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in to the Paisan Sports Podcast. Peace.